Hello, and welcome to another episode of the podcast where we will reassure you that football is fixable. Alright? Alright, Ces?
Alright, James. Alright, Dan.
Alright, Sis. Alright, James.
Yeah, alright.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright. Alright.
So, alright, that's enough of that. Well, starting off, you may have noticed we've got another voice there. Something historic has happened, Ces.
Very historic, yeah.
We've got someone who's joined our team.
For the first time ever in the history of our 9-month-old podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Dan. You're all right. Oh, we've already said all right.
Yeah,
How are
he's
you?
all right,
How
I
are you,
think.
Dan? You all right?
Alright. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I'm overjoyed. I cannot wait to get to all those listeners out in Australia.
Absolutely.
And you're one fan that you go on about so much. I really looking forward to meet him.
He's joined our podcast now.
No, so listeners, eagle-eyed listeners, eagle-eared,
Yeah.
Eagle-eyed.
eagle-eyed listeners. Can
Well,
you
yeah,
hear any-
eagles don't have famously good ears, do
They're
they?
eagle-eyed.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of what's a good listen. Anyway, so
Bat-eared.
listeners may have noticed Dan's been on previous episodes as a guest. Now he's joining the family, the All Right family.
Alright, family.
Exactly.
I passed the test.
You passed the test. He's been
Yeah.
on a 9-month interview, but he's eventually got the job.
Yeah.
He had no one else.
Yeah. Everyone else kind of like pulled out, didn't they?
Yeah,
So-
they kind of, yeah.
Yes.
With that, something else historic has happened as well. So in the last week, we're 8 game weeks into the Premier League now.
That is historic.
It is, well, no, that bit isn't, but it's the first time that 5 teams, it's the first time that,
Wow, 5 teams.
is it 5 teams or 4 teams? Let me just say, 4 teams. So, it's the first time that 4 teams in top flight history have failed to get a win from those opening 8 games. It's never happened before. So the bottom 4 sides in the Premier League.
Are you going to bring up Southampton again? Is this the problem?
No.
This is just
So
your way of
Wolves-
digging at Southampton again, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Or Southampton.
So Wolves, Southampton, Crystal Palace, and Ipswich are currently
It was the one just after Wolves?
Crystal Palace,
No.
and the other
just
one?
before that.
Ipswich.
Just before that.
The other one?
Wolves. So it's the first time in Premier League history that those 4 well, not just those 4 sides, that any 4 sides have not won a game in the first opening 8 games of the season. So
Wow.
I don't know if that says something for the league and the standards at the moment, but I mean, to some extent, it's an element of luck on the day or what happened. You know, it's just some of those teams have played really well. Wolves, for instance, played really well against Man City in the last week, the game week, but they ended up losing in the end, last minute, because of a John Stones goal.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a bit of a freak incident as well, but it's the first time ever, so historic.
That is historic. And you know what else is historic?
Oh right, yeah.
We have another Gabby watch. We've got a brilliant Gabby Agbonhor. It's really hard to say his name.
Gabby, Gabby is historic. Yeah.
Yeah, he is very historic. But yeah, we have another Gabby Agbonhor brilliant take, which actually shows that he's learning from our podcast. Gabby Watch. Hello, Gabby.
All right, say after Villa, I'm busted.
So Gabby was on TalkSport. I think it was today, as we record on the Friday, and he was talking about the age-old subject that we've been talking about for some time, the whole players playing too much thing.
Oh, the thing we've already fixed, yeah.
Yeah, we fixed that. Now, he originally, some weeks ago, when we brought it up with him, he was saying he was siding with the players. And he was saying, yeah, they play too much. And he said, you know, being an ex-player, he knows what it's like, even though he probably never played over 40 games in his life. But he was siding with the players. Today, he actually said he finds it hard to defend the players now. Yeah, and he was taking Foden as an example. He was saying, but last season he was playing brilliantly. He wanted to play every Premier League game. He wanted to play in the Euros. He wanted to play in the Champions League. At what point can you rest then? Because it's the players now, their decision is to play the games.
So,
you know?
So it sounds like his opinion has changed in direct relation to your episode. So actually,
Exactly.
Well, this is it. This happens often, doesn't it, Sess? We've sort of released episodes, and then within the next week, people have taken on our ideas, and we're seeing, we're shaping the world of football.
Yeah, and
it's
Dan,
nice
you
to
better
know.
get used to this, because our podcast is something that it just feels like everyone's stealing our ideas on their very
Do you know
popular
what?
platforms, and they take the ideas.
You know when you
But I
like
think-
start a new role and a job with a company, and they're like ethically like sound, and you feel like you're giving back to the community by working for them. This is
Oh yeah,
this is a feeling I have right now. I feel like
that's true.
in joining this
Yeah.
podcast, I'm going to give back because you guys are just momentously changing everything.
Yeah, this is like a global community service.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure the pressure is, going to fall heavy on those shoulders of yours, but I have no doubt we have faith in you. That's
Yeah.
why we decided to hire you.
That's why it took
But at
9
the same
months to
time-
give me the job.
Exactly.
We just wanted to find a better prospect. That's all.
we've resorted. We couldn't find anyone. So.
Yeah.
But no, at the same time, whether we improve football via other bodies copying us, or whether it's direct from us to the source, if that makes sense, either
Yeah.
way, it's a good thing. I'm happy.
Yeah. We're making a difference in some form,
Yeah,
aren't
if
we?
people have to take our ideas and it improves football for the greater good
Well,
of football, I'm happy
When
with
it
that.
when it
Greater
comes to
good.
like the problem in football, I feel like Gabby is almost like the head of the snake. You know,
Yeah. We've focused on him quite a bit because of that. That's a good point.
Yeah, true.
In fact, actually, what's your view on it, Dan? On the number of games being played?
well, okay, we I know we've discussed this briefly, and I do have a differing view to you two. Now,
you do, yeah.
I know it's difficult coming on as the new man and not agreeing with you straight away.
Being incorrect, you can say it properly.
Yeah, it's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
we
but-
want to have balanced views, even if they're wrong.
Yeah.
I just feel there is an argument to be had for the players and the different levels of the game in terms of its sort of fitness levels, in terms of the general pressure on the players in their fitness workouts, their regimes, like what they do.
I think you were
now
talking about
versus-
the intensity, weren't you?
yeah, there's the intensity,
Intensity of the
but
games.
also in like the training, like obviously you guys use Souness as an example, and the amount of games that he played. Like they also went down the pub and smoked cigarettes and stuff like that. Like their commitment to themselves as athletes was not the same as to what modern day footballers do to themselves. So
So don't the modern players then have an advantage because they're able to deal with the same number of games? Because we've found that clubs play the same number of games because
Yeah.
we've compared the stats. But the players now are better able to cope with that demand. So
I was
actually,
about to say that.
Oh, well,
yeah,
I
because
just-
they're
tougher
not
job.
smoking, and
Pe-
they had a tougher
potential-
job back in Souness's era.
I don't know. I think there's more strain on the physical body, if you see what I mean. Yeah, they're fitter and healthier, but they're pushing their bodies to a further limit. So
So should they be a bit more relaxed in training, and then they'll be able to cope with the demand of games?
potentially. There's also like the context of like internationals, for example. Like you've got these South American tournaments as well as the Nations League at the same time, and you've got players flying out to South America in one day, coming back a day, got here a couple of days, and they're playing on the Saturday or whatever. Like I just the logistics of it all, and the reality of what those games actually look like to a player, I think is totally different now to what it was in the days of Souness and everyone else.
I think there's one point you say there, which, the international games on the calendar and the mileage they're travelling, however they're doing that, whether it's by air or by coach or whatever, that's bound to have, create fatigue in a sense. But that's one thing we have fixed, isn't it, on our previous episode? So please go and listen to that, by the way, everyone. We fixed international friendlies, the pointless games.
They're pointless
that's-
games, but I've got to say, with the travelling, people like Souness and everything, they would have had to travel as well.
Yeah, of course.
And they wouldn't have been able to travel in five class
Five class.
cars.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Not 5-star luxury.
5-star luxury. Yeah, basically private jets and first class service, and then 5-star accommodation and everything.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have had any of that. I remember
yeah.
Lineker, even in the 70s and 80s, he was talking about how they had to share accommodation, and it was rubbish hotels and stuff like that. The thing is, the thing about intensity and stuff, I think it's always been the same level of intensity. Intensity has nothing to do with the output. Output nowadays, you could have faster people and stronger people and stuff. That's the output. That's not the intensity. Intensity, I think, has always been the same. You could give 100%. I think I mentioned this before. Jesse Owens in 1936 or whatever, he got a gold medal in the Olympics, but he was slower than Usain Bolt was in 2008, 2012, all those ones. But the intensity was still the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't that Usain Bolt just tried harder than Jesse Owens. They both tried as hard as each other. However, Usain Bolt has better tracks, better kits, diet, nutrition, treatments, medication.
But do you not think output is also a part of the argument for like a human, like the physical capability? So say for example in the 100-meter sprint example, say there was, I mean, this is just a number I'm picking out of nowhere, but say there was a physical say there was a physical point in which it was impossible for a human to run any faster than. So say it's impossible to run the 100 meters, like physically impossible to run the 100 meters for a human being to do it in under 8 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So
an actual human limit.
So the closer you get to that limit, right, is that not going to put more of a strain on your body?
No, I don't think so, because I think the limit that limit you mentioned, like the hypothetical limit, let's say the 8-second mark for 100 meters, I think the better nutrition and everything gives the person the better likelihood to be able to reach that limit. But I think the maximum intensity they give is as good as someone in there in the 1930s, for example. I think the intensity has no bearing on the limit, because everyone has their own limits. Yeah,
but the thing is, competition increases as well, and with more competition, surely that also creates more intensity.
I still don't think so. I think the fact that if you think about let's stick to football, for example. If you actually think about the number of games being played, what kind of pitches they're being played on, the boots and everything, you could have, even if you have more intensity nowadays, that is counteracted by the fact that Rodri played fewer games than Souness and Dalglish, like we proved. The way they travel, the accommodation, the food, nutrition, everything is much better. So even if I agree with you that the intensity is more now, I think that's counteracted by the fact that everything else is better for Rodri than it was for Souness or Dalglish.
Their health is tracked and looked after a lot more. Although Lineker did say that the intensity hasn't changed. The intensity they played back then, and that's something again we talked about in a previous episode. I think this is something that's very difficult to prove either way. One thing perhaps in Dan's favour, just sort of tying this up together, and let's leave it open because there isn't really an exact easy way to measure this, but there have been a lot more reported kind of incidents with health, like players on football pitches. We had the Christian Eriksen one during the Euros a few years ago?
Yeah.
And there's been more recently. I've been getting news notifications and things from players in different leagues collapsing on the pitch, having issues and things like that. So maybe there is something there to do with the health or how they're treating bodies in that way. Possibly, maybe we need to get a more of a medical specialist to kind of talk to us on it.
Yeah, and there's things that people learn from, like concussions, for example. It's because of sports that concussion has kind of been brought to the forefront. So there are things to be learned, so that's fair. But maybe it's another episode that we need to bring up on it, because it sounds like Dan needs to be trained.
I don't think that I don't think it's the domestic that's the problem, by the way. Because I do agree with your point that in terms of the league, the cups, and European football, the number of games really hasn't changed that much. Yeah, there's way more that are televised now, so we watch a lot more, but there's no more games being played, really. I genuinely think the issue is actually with international games, but those players that play in those domestic leagues also play in those international games. They're the same players playing them, so you have to count those internationals as part of the problem. You can't just say...
So that's why we fixed it in our last episode.
We did fix it. And also, if you actually look at what was it? We said it was like 0.3% of the players, professional players out there.
0.21, I think it was, or something like that,
actually play those number of games. So if we want to change stuff, then what we're saying is we have to succumb to the 0.2% of players out there.
That's a fair point. It is a small percentage, I suppose, that are playing the maximum amount of games. I don't know.
Once again, it's the managers picking the players.
Yeah.
They need to understand.
Picking Rodri, and then Rodri's going, I'm playing too many games. What's that? I'm playing the next game? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but like the argument
exactly,
you said
that's for the manager.
But the argument you said then for Souness and everybody else, back then you didn't have squads of teams at all. You had starting 11s.
They didn't even have subs.
Exactly, and they didn't moan. They just got on with it.
Yeah. So talk about intensity. They had to play 90 minutes every game
on worse pitches with proper tackles and physical challenges.
But we know this. Our fans know that Dan's wrong.
No, what I'm saying
is that's Dan presenting the opposite kind of point of view.
What I'm saying is that's not the problem then, is it? Like if you're using that argument to say that there was no problem with Souness, then the managers aren't the problem, and it's not the domestic leagues that are the problem. It's the international games that are. And you said you fixed that in another episode, but just because it's the international games that are the problem, it still doesn't mean that it's not a problem.
Right. Well, there we go then. So,
that's
Dan,
my
welcome
opinion
to the podcast.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, we've got another debate to get stuck into in a minute. So, let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
I'm very much looking forward to this because we get to talk about James's precious Arsenal.
Not in the way that James thinks.
I know, you're just setting me up to, as you put it off air a minute ago, and I'm going to let the listeners know this.
No.
Drag me through the mud.
No, I'm going to be
That's
partial.
the agenda here.
We're not going to jump down anyone's throat, but we are going to discuss the mighty, quote unquote, Invincibles.
Oh, that was some build up there.
That really was. I was wondering what was going on there.
I'm grateful for that build up. That was quite epic.
So,
right.
Yeah, I'll pass over to Ces, as this is his brainchild. So, Ces, do you want to tell us where your head is at, where this idea has formed?
All right. Well, the Invincibles are, let me just firstly say, incredible. I love the players. I love the playing style. The manager's brilliant. Their success was incredible. Okay, I'm going to put it out there. I don't want anyone to think that I'm somehow underrating what the Invincibles achieved.
Right.
The thing that I think is very much overrated is how much Arsenal fans basically think the Invincibles means something.
Okay.
So, and it's only really Arsenal fans. If you ask a Sheffield United fan or a Fulham fan or something, and you go, well, what about the Arsenal Invincibles? They don't think about it in the same way that Arsenal fans do. I'll give you an example. There was a YouTube show recently. I can't remember what it's called, but it had, what's his name? Turkish, the Arsenal guy.
From AFTV, yeah.
Yeah. He was talking with a Chelsea fan. I can't remember what his name is, but they were having a debate. A City fan. And they were having a debate about, like the Lad Bible,
I strongly agree, disagree.
Yeah,
sort of
that kind of situation. And they were talking about the treble winners versus the Invincibles and blah, blah, blah. And Turkish was staunchly defending the Invincibles. Fair enough. That, like I say, incredible achievement, incredible team.
Yeah.
However, they were talking about the best achievement, and Turkish was basically saying, well, you guys haven't done the Invincibles. No one's done the Invincibles. That's the best achievement. And the City fan was saying, who cares about a little golden trophy? That doesn't mean anything. We got a treble. And the ultimate achievement is to win as much as you want. And that is the kind of situation that I see with pretty much every Arsenal fan that I talk to, that the achievement of the Invincibles, not losing a game in the whole season means something epic.
It's not the whole
It's a
season,
great
though,
achievement.
is it? It's in the league. So you have multiple competitions throughout the season, don't you?
That is very true.
Hey,
Yeah.
the judge isn't allowed to join.
They were
You know
they were
what?
the Invincibles in the Premier League. I mean, by that idea,
Absolutely.
every
Yeah.
cup winner every single year are also invincible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more there, because a lot of people don't know this, but the Invincibles lost 7 times that season. They just didn't lose in the Premier League. The Invincibles only won 1 trophy, which was the Premier League, and they didn't win in any other. They didn't get to the final of any other tournament. They got knocked out by, I think, Middlesbrough in one of them, and
League Cup, yeah.
in the League Cup, yeah. So while what they did is amazing, I just don't see that it's an achievement that should be held in such high esteem somehow right next to the treble winning teams, for example. And it's, a lot of people have said before, you could be an Invincible and still get relegated. You could draw every single game and still get relegated.
It's very true.
So being an Invincible doesn't actually mean anything. What they did was they won the Premier League, and they won it in a certain style, which was epic.
Thank you.
And I think Carragher said it was one of the best, if not the best team that he played
He's
against.
ever played against, yeah. He's including Champions League teams in that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's absolutely up there. The Invincibles, it just doesn't really mean anything.
So it's more the meaning of the Invincibles rather than the actual quality of the team necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. And that the thing is, it's just something that can't. It doesn't matter, because the whole point about a game is you want to win the game, not lose. Because if you try to not lose, then you end up with 38 points and you could get relegated. Trying to win, like getting 100 points, that's trying to win a game. And I know you're hating this. Look at it. I can see the steam coming out your ears.
I'm blowing my lip at the moment.
And they drew 12. So many people don't know this. They drew 12 out of 38.
No, everyone knows this. All the youngsters see it on YouTube and they think, they drew 12 times. It must be rubbish.
Yeah,
it's like, when were you born, sorry? Oh, you were born 2 years after. And
Yeah,
so
What was
kids.
the point total that season?
What was the points total?
Yeah, what was the
what was the
points
points
total?
90.
90. There you go. And that's high. So a lot of the kids that you're teaching that you say you hate because they don't think too much about the Invincibles.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Do I say that, do I?
Yeah. They're in the wrong when they think that they're not a great team. They are a great team. The achievement of the Invincibles is what I'm saying isn't as great as they're making it. You can't put it on the same pedestal as a treble. I'd much rather win a Champions League than an Invincible trophy or Invincible.
There is a trophy. It's more just to commemorate the achievement. Yeah.
So the achievement of the invincibility is just, I just don't think it's a fallacy that Arsenal, kind of like the laughing stock of Tottenham and the Audi Cup, try to bring that in, or someone trying to say, we won the Community Shield, it means something. It really doesn't. That's my argument. It's not taking away at all from how good they are. It's just to do with the pinnacle that Arsenal fans seem to put the Invincibles status.
Yeah,
I think.
Am I allowed to come in now? Oh, come on! Dan needs to side with you first. The corruption is already apparent.
No, I think I agree in terms of as well. Like the team themselves were an incredible team, and like technically, strength-wise, they had everything, and it was a time like in football that was really competitive as well. So to be like undefeated in the Premier League is a great measure of the quality they had. So there's not taking away anything from that. What I do think is, I think there is a certain need for like a fan base, and you can understand it from a fan base. They hold on to something iconic to that team, something that will measure them in history books. Like a treble does that, right? Like a treble is a real cornerstone. It's a real marker in like the history of the game.
Oh, I forgot Dan's a United fan, isn't he?
I'm not just talking about United, but obviously for Arsenal, they won the Premier League that season, and it's probably one of the best teams probably the best team Arsenal have ever had. But they only ever won the Premier League, right, in that season. They didn't win much else. So I think that's why they hold on to that Invincibles thing so much as an additional achievement, almost like it's like an additional thing rather than just winning the Premier League,
Yeah, like a proper trophy.
Yeah.
Handed out. I've heard a lot of Arsenal fans actually, actual Arsenal fans, say that the Invincibles team isn't even the best Premier League team Arsenal's had, because you had that. Is it 98-99 team?
97-98.
97-98 team. They did the double.
It's a great side.
Yeah, and quite a few Arsenal fans have told me that they think that's the best one they've seen.
Ooh,
Yeah.
It is difficult. So,
Yeah,
right, I'm
I don't
going in
really
now.
know because I don't remember that.
I do.
98 team.
I think I preferred the Invincibles because of the style of play, and for me, football is about the art. I'm coming in now. I don't care. Shut up, Dan. So, the Invincibles for me, I think it's where it was just the type of football was played, and it was talked about. I mean, this is not something I necessarily. You might be able to find quotes of it somewhere, but at the time, I remember having conversations with fans from other teams, and it was regarded as some of the best football in Europe. The football that Arsenal were playing.
Yeah.
So I think it's the way you play football, and the way that Chelsea came the following year and they won the league. They only lost one game. It's still an incredible team. And again, we're not comparing quality of team, but how you go about it. You know, people...
The first parking bus.
The parking the
style.
bus. That was
Yeah.
where that really started from Jose Mourinho teams. And
Yeah.
I think it was the way, the expressive... People talk about passing out from the back with Pep these days. Wenger was doing it then in such style. It was beautiful to watch. You'd hear... So the 3:00 games that you couldn't watch on TV, I'd be watching on, you know, the Sky and BBC and things like that. And they'd have the former players, you know, like George Best was on there. And he was... And, you know, all those kind of Matt Letizia and those kind of players. God rest George Best, obviously, but he used to be a pundit on there. And there was, you know, the football that Arsenal were playing. It's just, you know, it's from another planet. It's just never seen anything like this before. The style that... And I think it's like... And Dan might appreciate this, because this is part of his background, to be honest. But it's art. I think it's kind of like it's in the eye of the beholder. And as we know that football's very tribal, so Arsenal fans are probably going to cling on to this. I can't speak for all fans. But I value it because of the style. And I think it's the same. That Premier League trophy is worth just as much as any others that any other teams won, including previous Arsenal ones. But I think the way that we played and the style of play, you know, Thierry Henry and Bergkamp and Vieira, and it was a combination of that physicality, the technique, the pace of it, tearing teams apart. United, I remember Gary Neville once saying they never really had to adapt to any other team other than Arsenal. That was one of the only teams in the Premier League they had to adapt their style to because they couldn't handle their left wing of Ashley Cole, Robert Pires and Thierry Henry and stuff, you know. And to hear that great United team, and they were brilliant, by the way, have to do that because they just couldn't keep up with the movement. It was so quick movement. It was so fluid. And that by that point in the Premier League wasn't really seen. And I don't think today we play in such a fluid style. We talked in the previous episode about how it's now possession-based and the structures and all that kind of thing. I would choose that Arsenal team over the current Arsenal team in terms of style of play, and
to watch as well, to get the enjoyment. Yeah,
the enjoyment to watch.
And it's also got your favourite player as well.
Well, yeah, and that's I grew up. I think that's part of it as well. I mean, you're bound to look at football and hold on to certain emotions, and that's what what sport is about, isn't it? We look up and they're icons and they're role models and things. And the way I learned how to play football, I kind of tried to learn by watching some of the great players do it, and the Bergkamps, the Henrys, the Pires, watching them do what they did.
Yeah,
taught me a lot about how I feel football should be played and to enjoy football and things. So it's had a massive mark on me. So I think that's probably where it's always those things like, you have certain moments in your life where it just meant so much, and I think that adds a bit extra to it.
Do you think that team would be successful today?
Yes and no. So style of player I think would be appreciated a lot, and the forward players would be phenomenal, but because of the differences it's so difficult. Sess and I in previous episodes have talked about, you know, the rules of physicality and stuff. Vieira was generally a clean player back in his era, but the challenges that he'd do today, he'd concede so many free kicks.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even that team, even though you would say that they're not one of the more heavy tackling kind of teams of their era, they would still be the most heavy tackling of this era.
Yeah, if you put that Arsenal team in today's Premier League, because of the rule changes and everything, they'd be more aggressive than the kind of Evertons and the Burnleys, you know, any other sides that really try and rough teams up and things.
In no way can you have Martin Keown playing in this era.
Yeah,
it's there's no way. It's everything he does. It's just going to be deemed as oh no, you're touching the guy. That's
not
that's
allowed
a foul.
to anything like that.
Yeah.
We don't. It's not. I don't think there was as many as we call it, dark arts in the game back then. You had a few. There was diving in the game back in the Premier League back then, but not to the level. Now it's about
You
being
say there
clever.
was no dark
so
arts.
many teams these days.
One of the games that you drew, I think, for Portsmouth was a bit
I
of
didn't
dark
say there wasn't
arts with
no
Perez.
dark arts. I said it was less dark arts. Is what
Oh,
I said.
sorry, I thought you said
Not
no.
as- it
Sorry.
wasn't. No. I said, so we talk about dark arts, but compared to today, there was not anywhere near as many kind of actions that we define as dark arts back then. Diving was in the game, but not to the extent it is now, and they're kind of trying to trick the referee to the same extent today.
Didn't they have to do a
I think
huge
it's now.
rewrite of the rules from... I think it was from a World Cup, wasn't it? In like the 80s or something, where they changed the pass backs and stuff like that. Like, dark arts have always been about in football, haven't they?
Yeah, true, yeah.
I think if anything, dark arts in any sport is basically trying to take the rules to the limit.
Yeah, push things, yeah.
Yeah, you've seen it in other. Even in, I remember in rugby a few years ago, there was a guy that used a blood capsule to pretend that he was bleeding so that he could go off for injury.
Wow.
And then they found like he basically claimed he had a bit of a knock, but the blood capsule was so heavy. Such a heavy bleed that it just looked like his neck was falling off or something.
Right.
Yeah, and so every sport I think does it. I think now in football they don't seem to allow any kind of noticeable dark arts, the heavy tackling and stuff, and so it's just gone too much the opposite way, and they're just kind of penalising everything, which is it's taken away from
I think there's
However,
a lot more freedom and flexibility in football, isn't there? So
What now?
yeah, a lot. There's a lot less. Like it's so
a lot less.
It's so rigid. It's so like you don't have like many grey areas to operate in, do you? Which is
they try to write a rule for every grey area, don't they? But then you have teams like Arsenal now are the Dark Arts FC, aren't they? Because they try to take the rules to the limit. They're quite a dirty team.
The anti-Arsenal agenda on my podcast is starting to
Your podcast.
adopt.
Yeah, well, anyway, let's go back to the Invincibles, because that's our topic for today. I genuinely think a lot of the players, if you name certain players, you could say they're some of the greatest players that the Premier League's seen. So I understand how great they are. I just don't understand why Arsenal fans in general just can't admit that it's not as epic as like winning a treble, for example.
because
Or you mentioned about Chelsea the following year. They only lost one game.
Yeah.
They conceded only 15 goals.
Yeah.
In order to do
It's
that.
the best defensive Premier League scene, I think.
Yeah, and they at the time they broke the record for the number of points with 95.
I thought it was 91.
91. Yeah, they
just
broke the
by-
record. Yeah. So I would say that's a better achievement
I think
than
it's-
what the Invincibles are. The Invincibles, it basically all they did was lose one less game, one fewer game.
Fewer games?
One.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chelsea lost one more game than Arsenal. However, they won more games. They won more trophies. That's more impressive.
You were just criticising Arsenal Dark Arts FC at the moment. That Chelsea team brought Dark Arts in abundance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about any of the styles. I'm not bringing any dark arts into it. Where I was just talking about the achievement, because that's what Arsenal hold on to.
Yeah.
The Invincibles.
And that's a debate. There isn't a fact or, it's not true or false with that. I mean, that Chelsea side was a brilliant side. Their defence helped build that foundation for them, and they had some fantastic players up front, from Robin, Duff, Drogba, fantastic players.
Yeah.
And Mourinho, who was really in his kind of, when his stocks were high, he's confident, the players believed in him. Like John Terry at the back, that defence, man. Frank Lampard.
Carvalho.
What a team. So that's a debate that absolutely is valid, between those two teams. And when they played each other, obviously it wasn't the season Arsenal went invincible. It was there were changes to the team and so on.
Did Ashley Cole go to Chelsea that year?
No. Ashley Cole joined after 2006.
Okay.
It was the last year he was with us. So, yeah, those two, I think that's a valid comparison. I disagree. I would choose the Arsenal team over Chelsea because of the style of play, how we could create something from nothing. When you had people in their prime, like the Bergkamps, the Henrys, Gilberto Vieira, and so on, that following season, when we played them, Chelsea couldn't beat us. We drew both games. It was a deadlock, essentially. It was 2-2 and 0-0, both games. See, I don't know how I know all this.
Yeah, but that's still talking about the style of play. I'm still only talking about the achievement.
Yeah, you're talking about the achievement, but I'm talking about, so in terms of which team was stronger and that kind of thing, and what achievement's better is, you could measure, if you measure it in terms of points, yeah, it was. I think the how you go about it is important, and I think that's what I can't speak for all Arsenal fans, but
what
for
you
me,
come out with of the end of it is also important. Like how you go about it is okay, but like the game is about winning trophies, isn't it? Like
so that Chelsea side won just as many Premier Leagues as that Arsenal side did, but in that so in their year they won that trophy and Arsenal won the trophy the year before. I think the way we did it was a thing of beauty, and that matters to me. Like I say, I'd rather watch the Arsenal team than the Arsenal team I watch now. We win. We play some great stuff now as well, but sometimes it is a bit more gritty and dark artsy and however you want to call it.
Yeah.
But from what from what Cess is saying though, because the whole point is the sort of over elaboration of the achievement. So I understand comparing Chelsea to Arsenal in the success and saying that Arsenal team is better, they're invincible or whatever, because Chelsea won a Premier League, you won a Premier League. It's quite tight. However, knowing you how I know you, I know, for example, you would put that Invincibles team way above the 99 treble winning team.
In terms of, are we saying the strength of the team or the strength of the achievement?
Yeah, that's the thing, because I keep going back to the achievement. How you play is different to what you achieved. Yeah, this is my meaning. So, sure, Chelsea and Arsenal in the space of 2 seasons they won one each. But then you mentioned about how they won those leagues. The thing is, the thing that you're holding on to with the Invincibles, the reason why they're called the Invincibles is the no losing aspect. Yeah. It's not how you played, it's not losing. That's what made it the Invincibles. And that is the thing that I'm saying is overrated. Because genuinely, a lot of Arsenal fans think being invincible, or like the achievement of the Invincibles, is better than a treble winning because no one else has done it, whereas now both the Manchester teams have done the treble. I still maintain that the pinnacle is the treble. So it doesn't matter how many times people might do the treble, that's what you want to win. And if you win the treble, then that's the ultimate achievement. It doesn't matter that you don't lose a game. Because like I say, if you don't lose a game, you could also not win a game and be relegated.
Yeah, true.
Whereas if you win a treble, you've won all the major trophies.
Also, in the context of the club's history, like that's the other thing as well, isn't it? Arsenal haven't won a Champions League, so in terms of their own history,
that's a stab.
No. I don't mean it in that kind of a way. What I mean is, because obviously we're as fans, we are literally tied into backing our team and the history of our own team and talking about the achievements of what we have done, right? So there's not a comparison there for us. So if Arsenal's invincible team is probably in their history probably their greatest achievement. So that's probably
I see. So they haven't got the Champions League to compare.
Well, you say that based on the logic that you guys are using, if Dan's agreeing with you, says that is, well, Arsenal have won 3 doubles in their history with Premier League, the First Division back in the 70s. We won the First Division and the FA Cup, and then we won 2 doubles with Wenger during the Premier League era as well, with the Premier League and FA Cup.
97-98 being one of them.
97-98 and then 2001 too. So
many other teams have won that
those
double.
3.
So
but what I'm saying is, if we're using the idea of achievement as the measure, then those teams achieved more than the Invincibles did. I don't really disagree with that. I'd say if we're measuring it by achievement, then and going back to your treble idea, the United, the Man City, in terms of achievement, I can see the case for that. I think there is a discussion to have because no one else has gone unbeaten in the Premier League era. How tense, how close, how competitive, how strong the teams are you're playing against, and to go unbeaten in it. Even the great Man City teams of recent years, with all their billions of pounds and their 2 world-class 11s and stuff like that, the depth they've got, still haven't managed to do it. Liverpool came close. They couldn't do it during their best years with Klopp.
United have been the best team in Premier League history, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, so I think that needs to be recognised and respected. And it's not, and that's the thing, it's the how again. You could go unbeaten and go down, but the fact is we didn't. We won the league going unbeaten. To do that without losing a game is a phenomenal achievement. So that just comes down to kind of what you prefer to have. Achievement-wise, the 3 trophies, you'd say, well, they achieved more. So, if you're measuring it by trophies, it depends what your measure is.
I think
the quality of football, I wouldn't trade that Invincible for a treble right now.
Yeah, so the quality of football, that's fair enough. And I think it was good. I don't know if you could call it lucky, but it definitely was good that that particular team with those players and that style happened to also be the the Invincibles. So you could have a name put onto that.
That's the
specific
I think
team.
I see it like that. Rather than that we didn't lose the game, it's more that those players, the players that I think are the best I've ever seen, the Burkhamps, the Henrys, the players I'd watch over anyone else, I can call them an Invincible.
Yeah,
That's
so
like
you can give them a name and immediately know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
The Arsenal players. So
Yeah.
I get that, and that's kind of the same as Dan with Man United. If we say the 99 team, you know exactly Colin, York, Becks,
or the class of 92, and that's a stamp of certain players, isn't it?
Yeah,
and that's what you associate with in that bracket. So I think that's where, and it's a sense of pride and joy. I remember the joy and all that from watching them.
And that kind of thing, that's perfectly logical and understandable and relatable with a lot of other teams. It's just that I just don't understand why so
the
many
idea
Arsenal...
of the achievement and what Turkish was saying.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, they get people, I think, a lot of the guys from those fan channels, not just the Arsenal ones, although that's just the biggest, just going to say, but from all the fan channels, they're on there and they like to, that provokes controversy. Some of them are really quite radical views.
Yeah,
I think
and they're on there to have radical views
and
as well.
And that's one reason they're selected. Robbie does come up with some radical things, but he's quite level-headed, generally speaking.
Which one's Robbie?
Robbie's the creator, the main guy.
Oh,
AFTV.
yeah, AFTV.
He's more level-headed, but he can come out with silly things, and we all can. But I think that's it. I think Turkish doesn't necessarily represent the rational argument of why that team was so great, necessarily. Or if he might not have put it across in the right way, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, and comparing things, I think people need to just respect different achievements, to be honest. You know, respect one piece of art to another. Da Vinci to Michelangelo.
Have you run out of artists?
I'm not. Dan, you're the art guy. You have to tell me.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the achievement itself, I always bring it back to the achievement. If logically we ask Arsenal fans about the achievement itself, so we're talking only about the title for the Invincibles, the not losing a game. Sure, no one else has done it in the... I don't think... Oh no, someone else has done it outside of the
Preston
Premier League.
North End did it back in 1889 or something.
That was
I
it.
think.
So it's so long ago, it's almost not comparable in a sense.
Yeah.
So, however, I don't think it's because people are trying to achieve that as such.
It's not something you strive for specifically, is it?
I mean, no team wants to lose or anything, or they don't go out to lose. That's fair. However, most teams just go out there to win, don't they? So they think sometimes we'll lose, but we'll try to win. They don't go out to say, right, let's get a draw or something. Let's make sure we go unbeaten the whole season.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I suppose, if Everton did it, it's something maybe I'll try to hold on to. I can
it's
understand
something to
that.
be proud of. It's still an achievement. Whether it's as good an achievement is a discussion to have. But so I think it's to do that. And this is what I've said something on a previous episode, which you agreed with, and that is the reason why the Premier League is the hardest to win, rather than the FA Cup, rather than the Champions League. Even though the quality of teams in the Champions League, especially in the latter stages, you'd say, well, there's more higher quality ones. Even though the Premier League's now you could say 4 or 5 top teams.
Yeah.
The Premier League is over a whole season, 38 games. You play every team twice.
Yeah, it's a greater number of games to have to be consistent.
Across
100%.
more variables, so over time as well. So it's not just an FA Cup or a Champions League or whatever, it's a knockout game. If it's in the semis or whatever, you get a double leg, or, in the latter stages, you get 2 legs. But it's not going to be the same as a Premier League through all seasons of weather, through the whole season, where in 9 months, how many things change in pressure and impacts of all kinds of different things going on. There's more things that can go wrong and test you. It's more, what I'm trying to say is it's a more testing experience. To go through that whole league without losing a game against all of those variables, you will need a bit of luck. You'll need a bit of luck to win any competition, whether that's the FA Cup, Champions League or whatever. But I think that achievement is the most, what we call the acid test of football, is the league. It's the most rigorous test we've got. And to do that without losing, through quality, through elements of luck, through whatever happens, I think is an achievement that needs to be respected.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But I think I understand what Seth says in terms of this perception that I think it might be an inflated achievement, but it is an incredible achievement. 100% it is. Yeah. Like what you say about. One thing I want to say is I think where there's obviously that argument about the league is the most difficult thing to do. 100% it is. It's definitely because the league is the real measure of where you're at. It's your bread and butter. That tells you how good you are and what you're doing, because that's where you.
And that's
play
also
the
why
most regularly.
Teams, especially at the top of the league, focus on the league. So Man City will tell you the league's priority. Arsenal will tell you the league's priority. But
to win it,
in the Champions League,
to win it, and then win additional trophies on top of that, just goes to show how even harder that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that will be tough.
Yeah.
One last thing I just want to sort of, with this, because we're comparing the treble to the Invincibles, which I think that's a valid comparison. When we're talking about winning Champions Leagues, it's not always the best team that wins the Champions League. So Chelsea, when they beat Bayern Munich,
but
they
it's
were
not always
outplayed. To be fair, United were outplayed by Bayern Munich in their final.
We were,
99 to some extent.
But
I think it goes back to that United had the mentality to get over the line. But in the league, that Chelsea side, both times they've won 2 Champions Leagues, after spending a lot of money, I might add, and both times in the league they weren't particularly good. You know, it's kind of, they benefited from managing the knockout competition and maybe prioritising it after they realised that they were slipping down the league and stuff. They weren't going to win the league. So, you know, and this has happened time and time again. You know, there's teams that win the Champions League without necessarily being the best in their league. The year Man City won the Champions League, did they win the league that year? Oh yeah, they did win the treble, didn't they? Or was it? No, it's Liverpool, wasn't it? Liverpool won the Champions League recently, and it was the year after or before they won the league. It wasn't the same season.
Although, in saying that, when they won the Champions League, they got 97 points in the league.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
So,
no. Again, and so there's still a great achievement. And to get to the final of the Champions League, you're going to have a lot of quality as well as some luck. That's what I mean. But it doesn't naturally mean you're the best team just because you win the European Cup.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you might say, you're such an Arsenal fan saying, we have won European Cups, by the way. People always forget this. I see it on the socials as well. I see Arsenal, because they've never won a European Cup, they've never won anything in Europe. Yeah, we have. We've won 2, actually.
Yeah, but you've not won a Champions League.
Do you not
do your
remember?
research?
Yeah, this is we've restarted the football.
Oh yeah,
do you not remember? Yeah.
But Arsenal won the European Cup Winners' Cup back in 1994. That was during the Premier League era.
Yeah, but that's
glossing over that. It's like somebody winning Europa League. Jose Mourinho uses that as a major trophy, so I think Arsenal have the right to as well.
I think
okay.
I just want to pick up kind of your argument about, you know, not the best team always wins in the knockout stages, right? So you get the result and you get over the line. The same applies to every single game, week in, week out in the league. Like but the fact is, there's a lot more of them across a much longer period of time. So that's where it's more rigorous. 100%. But like,
you need
what I'm saying is the whole
consistency in the league than you do in a cup.
But it's an entire tournament, isn't it? In the same that it's also an entire league. So you have to get yourself to the final, whether you're outplayed or not. If you win that game, you've got there. So it is measured over an entire season.
And that's what I think it's still an achievement. But the league is a tougher test because it's over a longer period of time with a lot more games.
So this is what I mean about the not losing thing. Not losing in a knockout stage is far more important than it is in the league, because as soon as you lose, then you're out. Whereas in the league, you're not. And so I think to be able to do both is incredible. Doing a double, I think, is a better achievement than just not losing in the league. And a treble is the pinnacle. I'm assuming most leagues don't have a secondary cup like England
Not all
does.
leagues do. I think some do, but not all leagues.
So basically a treble is
really
the pinnacle. Yeah. So that's what I mean. So to all Arsenal fans out there thinking that I'm just poo-pooing Arsenal's Invincibles as a team, I'm not.
No,
the team itself.
No, I'll vouch for you on that. You're not.
Yeah. It's just it's just basically the accolade, the pinnacle they put the achievement of the Invincibles rather than the team itself.
I do think if they did then go on to win a treble at some stage in their, in the future, then I think in their own minds, I think Arsenal fans would downplay the Invincibles achievement. I think once they have a team in their history that have won a treble, I think.
I see. Yeah,
I didn't realise we had Mystic Meg on the podcast as well.
No, well,
I know what you mean. So that they won't hold that as the. Yeah, I don't know if
so it diminishes in everyone's mind. We don't have to hang on to the Invincibles anymore.
You got the treble to think about.
Wow, I didn't realise Dan had the ability to see the future.
There you go. You're welcome, James.
He's predicted how I'm gonna feel if we ever win a treble. Amazing.
Yeah.
And so now we hear from the Pep Guardiola of the Fantasy Football League. Here's some of John's juicy tips.
Juicy.
That is juicy.
John's juicy tips.
Yeah.
Alright, we've got as much juice as a watermelon in today's tips. This week, I am frustrated. I've wasted my triple captainship on Haaland, who couldn't finish from 2 yards out. And maybe it's time to think about getting rid of him in the next few weeks. Anyway, here's some players to look at. In defence, it's a clear pick. It's Rayan Ait-Nouri. He's got 3 goals and 1 assist in his last 4 games, and Wolves have a brilliant extended fixture run coming up. It's time to get rid of a premium defender and get him in. In midfield, it's James's favourite ex-Arsenal player. It's Emile Smith-Rowe. After coming back from a niggle and providing another assist, Fulham play Brentford next, who can't stop conceding goals. So at 5.7 million, he is a snip. And in this year's Premier League season, it seems to be the return of the veteran forwards, with Welbeck, Jimenez and Vardy all providing goals. But the pick of them all is the colossal Kiwi, Chris Wood for Forest. 7 goals already this season. Juicy.
Thank you very much, John, for those juicy tips.
That's my line.
Oh, this is tense. Dan is doing such a good job that he might just be the new host now.
Is he replacing? That's
The new co-host, I should say.
oh right.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been trained by the best.
I feel I've been pushed out.
Seth, thanks, mate.
He was
Appreciate
complimenting you there.
it. No, that
Is
was
he trained by the best? Am I the best?
Well, you're the only.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you're technically the best and the worst.
Oh right.
Yeah.
I'm in a league of my own.
Yeah.
Just looking at our fantasy football league, Sess and Dan. I've got to get used to saying both your names now.
Yeah.
There has been a slight change near the top. Sam is still top. Your old buddy, old chum.
He's actually doing really well, isn't he? It's so annoying.
541 points, going very
Yeah.
well after
solidly up
game
there
week
for
9.
Yeah.
ages.
Well, we're in the middle of game week 9 at the moment as we speak.
Yeah.
But we've had a slight change. Our guru, John, has slipped down to 3rd place.
Ooh, he's almost out of the podium places, isn't he?
Ooh, we're going to have to get the People's Front of Judea onto
Yeah.
our juicy tip. We'll have to come up with a new name for our tips.
Yeah. Pretty soon we'll have to start introducing it as "Don't listen to John's juicy tips."
What not to do.
Yeah.
So come on, John. Buck up your ideas, sunshine.
Yeah.
Well done to those guys in the top 3. If you want to join our league, you can join by entering the code 8B8E1L. Join and see how far you can get, and if you top the league, we'll give you a shout out.
Yeah, and play against us as well. How are you doing, James?
Really well, thank you very much.
Yeah?
Yeah, how are you doing, Dan?
Shall we read out where you are? Out of the 40 players, do you want to have a guess, Dan, where James is?
No, there was no need for
James.
that. No.
I mean, James, a man of such knowledge and education, I would imagine he's probably in the top 5.
You would imagine. Yeah, absolutely. Top 5. So, yeah, out of 40, maybe, 5th place or something. No, he's 37th.
Oh,
I just
lovely.
felt, it's like when you let people into your own home, you want them to feel welcome. You don't want to make them feel,
That's very noble.
let them
gracious.
settle in. So I wanted to just kind of give everyone else a chance, really.
Nice.
to
That's
explain,
So Dan and I are actually not doing a good thing.
Well, I think everyone knows that, I'm just a nicer person. So
Are you?
really?
yeah. let's go with
I'd
that.
like to,
I don't know
I'd
how
like
much
to
more to say.
meet this nice person you're talking about. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
All right, where are you two then? Come on then.
Yeah.
I was 17th, I saw. But Dan is doing better than me, unfortunately. So I was top of our all right family, but now I'm not.
Dan's
I was
12th.
Yeah.
I was hoping to keep that a sort of a seat. I thought it might jeopardise my position here, so I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah, you are on probation, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like we
that's,
said, we've got no other option than to hire you, so you're all right for now.
Oh, perfect.
Literally, all right.
Oh, you're all right.
Yeah.
How many medals do you two get, by the way, for 17th and 12th places? Just I want to put that out there.
How many medals?
How many medals? No, we wouldn't get medals for 12th, but we definitely get more plaudits than 37th. So
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I'll get like a Nobel Prize for just being helpful to the community by letting them,
So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why they hand out Nobel Prizes for.
Anyway,
yeah,
let's get
they
on with the
definitely look
episode, shall
at
we?
FPLs.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Dan, for being our kind of completely unbiased and not sort of having any agenda against Arsenal in any way throughout that episode.
I thought I was pretty
it's perfectly
neutral.
fair.
I thought I did
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah,
right.
you absolutely did, Dan. James obviously doesn't see it that way because he's an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, he has that
He
really
thinks
inflated
Invincibles
opinion.
means something.
The hate on Arsenal. It's just not fair, man. We need more respect. Right, so thanks for listening, everyone. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. It's a bit of a fun debate today.
Yeah.
But please do like, subscribe, and follow. It makes a massive difference. You've liked, subscribed, and followed Dan, haven't you?
Yes, of course. Liking, subscribing, following. Instantly. Done. Now.
Excellent. So with that, we will see you next time. Have a great week. It's goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.